We had an absolutely amazing response to our first couple of Cask Market Insight videos. For anyone who hasn't seen them, go and check them out now. But unfortunately, we continue to see these supposed investment companies muscling their way through and pushing their overpriced casks on unsuspecting individuals. In this video, we're going to respond to some of the questions we've had and highlight some key things that you need to know about casks, including how we value them here at the Whiskey Baron. Now, the key thing to understand when buying a cask is what exactly is it that you're paying for. This includes understanding cask type as well as the age and provenance of the wood. Some of the different cask types include octaves, barrels, barriques, hogsheads, sherry butts, and port pipes. Now, these are all different sizes of casks, yes, but they also have different origins and will impart certain flavours on a whiskey. Furthermore, you need to understand, is the cask first, second, or third fill? And what exactly does the seller mean when they denote this? From here, you need to understand if the liquid can be named or if the distillery has produced trade name spirit. For example, I'm sure you've all heard of distilleries such as Highland Park, Glenmorangie, and Glenfarclas. Well, Highland Park casks are often sold into the trade as Whitlaw casks. Glenmorangie often sold to the trade as Westport, and Glenfarclas are often sold as Glenfarclas. However, these three different brands have very strict rules when it comes to their brand names. For example, Whitlaw can sometimes be labelled distilled at Highland Park Distillery when bottling. Westport, however, can never be denoted as Glenmorangie. And whilst Glenfarclas casks are sold as Glenfarclas in cask format, it is strict rules by the distillery that you cannot bottle and label it as Glenfarclas, nor can you bottle it as a single malt whiskey. You then need to understand how much liquid is in your cask, and this is generally measured in one of the following ways. You have OLA, original litres of alcohol, or the measurement taken when the cask was initially filled. RLA, regauge litres of alcohol, which is also sometimes noted as LPA, litres of pure alcohol. This is a fresh measurement from the cask at a specific point in its life. It's very important to understand exactly when that measurement was taken. And then also you can measure it by estimated bottles at cask strength. But how do you use the figures you've been given to calculate the figures that you don't have? So let's say you're buying on original litres of alcohol and you want to figure out your estimated regauge litres of alcohol. Perhaps your cask is 10, 12, 15 years old, and so you need to figure out roughly what will be in the cask. Evaporation in Scotland and Ireland is approximately 2%, and so what you would do is take your original litres of alcohol, multiply it by your expected evaporation, and this will give you your angel share per annum. You then take the age of your cask, multiply it by the anticipated angel share per annum to get your total estimated loss. Your original litres of alcohol minus this total estimated loss will give you your estimated regauge litres of alcohol. To figure out the total number of bottles, you would take your RLA and divide it by your bottling strength, which will then give you your bulk litres. This bulk litres are then divided by the size of the bottle to give you your estimated yield in bottles. Equally, if you've been given the total estimated yield of bottles, but you want to figure out your regauge litres of alcohol, you would just flip the maths backward and take your bottles, multiply it by the bottle size to give you your bulk litres, and then take your bulk litres and multiply it by the strength of the alcohol to give you your total regauge litres of alcohol. Now, let's use a live example of some casks that we currently have in stock for sale right now. Some Port Dundas 2000 hogsheads. This is the example we're going to use, and we're going to figure out the estimated regauge litres of alcohol on this cask as they were purchased on an OLA basis. Hogsheads tend to have 150 OLA at the point of filling. So we would take our original litres of alcohol, 150, and multiply this by 0.02, which will give us an estimated evaporation of 3 litres of alcohol per annum. These casks are turning 23 this year, and so we would multiply these 3 litres per annum by 23 to give us a total estimated loss of 69 litres. 150 original litres of alcohol minus the 69 anticipated litres that have been lost gives us an RLA anticipated at 81. If we then want to figure out the estimated yield of bottles from this cask, we would take 81 RLA, divide it by the strength of the alcohol, which at 23 years old, we could imagine to be in and around 50%. So 81 divided by 0.5, which gives us bulk litres of 162. We then divide these bulk litres by the bottle size, and most casks are bottled in 70 centilitre bottles. So 162 divided by 0.7, which gives us an estimated yield of 231.43 bottles. Now, I always err on the side of caution, and I would prefer to round down than to round up. This will allow for extra evaporation and also spillage at the point of bottling. So I would put this down as an estimated 225 cask strength bottles. A cask of whiskey is ultimately only worth the bottles it will produce. So a good yardstick for valuing casks is to calculate the cost per bottle and then compare it to current offerings on the bottle market. Remember though, the cost calculated is the cost per bottle in bond. You have to pay duty and taxes on alcohol, and UK duty currently stands at £28.74 per litre of alcohol. You'll also have a number of bottling and distribution costs to account for. So, how do we value a cask? Well, we generally work on a price per litre per year. For grain, this is generally £1 to £1.50 per OLA per year, and for malt, it is approximately £4 to £6 per OLA per year. And you might be thinking, well, that's not very much at all, or I've never seen casks priced that well. Well, it's simply because you're buying them from the wrong source, as these are true trade values. It's also important to note that these prices have recently increased due to energy and grain costs, and so cask purchased historically wouldn't have been this expensive. Now, let's go back to the example of our Port Dundas cask. To figure out the top price paid, we would take the age of the cask, 23, and multiply it by £1.50 to find the highest price per litre. We then multiply this by 150 OLA to find the top purchase price. In this instance, it would be £5,175 per cask. Now, I've used this Port Dundas to give you an idea of the disparity in pricing within the industry at present. As I say, we recently completed on a parcel of these 2,000 Port Dundas casks, paying £22 per OLA and selling at £25 per OLA. This means our customers were buying 23-year-old casks for approximately £3,750. Now, interestingly, there are other companies also selling Port Dundas at present. One company in particular caught my eye as they were selling 2004 hogsheads at £35 per OLA, or approximately £5,250 for a cask. Now, it's the same distillery, the same liquid, the same casks, the same OLA. Our stock is actually 4 years older, and yet we're selling it at £1,500 less per cask. And you might think, well, Jake, surely there's a good reason for this. No, there's not. We sourced the stock from exactly the same supplier, so I know the price that was paid for these casks, and there is only one explanation for the price being so high: greed. It was only recently that I read a hilarious online article about this greedy company, essentially an advert from the director. He warns of the potential pitfalls and discusses first-hand experiences of casks going missing, seemingly someone you can trust, but I wouldn't if I were you. He talks all about how independent bottlers are the lifeblood of the business and the exit strategy that they're using. Yet they send out huge lists of stocks to private investors on a weekly basis, with tags such as Showstopper and Deal of the Week, despite their pricing being significantly higher than it should be. As an independent bottler, I can say with complete confidence that I would never source casks from this company, for the simple reason that I simply couldn't afford to. They are selling at retail prices, not at trade values. They are reliant on investors to continue piling into the industry, and equally, their investors are reliant on other investors paying more than they did in the first instance in order to secure a positive exit. Bottlers ultimately cannot afford this premium. Now, many of you have asked us for our professional opinion on cask companies that you've seen or maybe even already bought casks from. And whilst I'll never speak out against specific companies, I would warn you to proceed with caution no matter what. You can assume that any company I refuse to comment on isn't trusted by us, and equally, any company that we do feature on any of the Whiskey Baron content is completely trusted by our team. With this in mind, we could recommend speaking with companies such as Whisky Broker, companies and people that have ultimately been in the industry for generations and who deal in the end product, bottles of whiskey. This is key. Hopefully this once again highlights the problems people are facing with the cask investment scene at present. We hope you found this video helpful. We'd love to hear your thoughts, including anything you do or don't agree with, but particularly any helpful information that you can share in order to help further protect our community members. So please drop us a like, drop us a comment below, and we'll see you soon. Sláinte.